The Dating Show, brought to you by olderdatingonline.com.
If the eyes are looked upon as the windows to the soul, then a smile must be the doorway to the heart.
Debbie.
Yes.
What are you doing?
Oh, well, we're interested in eyes today, and I've been looking up some quotes about eyes.
OK, carry on.
I like Mahatma Gandhi's quote. He says, an eye only ends up making the whole world blind.
OK.
That's quite good.
Yeah.
And only in the eyes of love you can find infinity.
Who is that, Buzz Lightyear?
Someone called Soren Kerin.
Oh,
I'm not
right.
sure who. But my favourite one is, when life gives you lemons, squirt someone in the eye.
Nice.
How cool is that?
Nice. But eyes are very important, aren't they? And particularly when you're...
Yes.
You know,
they are
trying
important.
to find love and romance and dating. Somebody's eyes are...
They're so communicative.
Yeah.
They tell you a lot.
OK. So we've got our reporter Julie Davis, the wonderful...
The gorgeous
Julie Davis, to look at this. So let's hear from her.
The Dating Show, brought to you by olderdatingonline.com.
Julie,
yes.
What colour eyes have you got?
Well, I've actually got the most common eye colour in the world. Sounds, I'm not sure whether that sounds good or bad, really, but...
Brown.
Well, you've done your research. Either that or you've been looking into my eyes. One or the other, but yes, you're right.
I know which one I'd prefer.
Oh, yes?
And so you've got brown eyes.
Yes, I have, yes.
Debbie's got a lovely shade of green, haven't you, Debbie?
Green, well,
They
green,
are
actually.
green, yes.
Green eyes say sort of mystery, they do. Mystery and enigma.
Ooh,
And they're
that
supposed
sounds
to be
good.
quite intelligent, people with green eyes.
Ooh, I love it.
Yeah.
OK. So what are the different sort of traits that you've been looking at? So there might be a difference between sort of blue eyes, brown eyes, green eyes, grey eyes.
There is indeed. And there's even black eyes, they say. There's black eyes. But black eyes is very rare.
I've had a few of those in my time.
We're not going to go there.
OK.
That's a whole different show entirely.
Tell us about your research then.
OK, well, for black eyes, often when what people see and call as black eyes, it's actually quite often very, very dark brown eyes. And that's often associated with intuition. People with black eyes are said to be very trustworthy and quite responsible, but they're also people that are reluctant to fall in love, generally, people with black eyes. When you come to someone with brown eyes, like myself, apparently we're very attractive and confident. So it's the strong, rich colour in the brown eyes, and it's associated with the earth and things like creativity. Independent, people with brown eyes, very good for trying new things, and they're quite happy-go-lucky people. You've got someone with green eyes, like Debbie herself, as I said, an enigma, intelligence, comes across with people with green eyes. They're generally always the first people to take interest in something new.
Would you agree with that, Debbie?
Well, I'm loving it, but because I was really nervous that Julie was going to say, well, green eyes, they're associated with envy.
Well, they do say that jealousy can play a factor when it comes to relationships for people with green eyes.
Oh, that's interesting.
But overall, the positives about people with green eyes actually defeats the negatives.
Brilliant.
So
I think I'm going to concentrate on those, the positive aspects. The enigma, I love that.
The enigma.
Yes.
And then you also have two others you have before we become to the most popular, the type of eyes that everyone would like the most. You've also got hazel eyes. People with hazel eyes, which is a mixture of...
Whoa. What's the difference between sort of hazel eyes and brown eyes?
Oh, well, you see, hazel is a mixture of my colour eyes and Debbie's colour eyes. So you've got green eyes and brown eyes, and then you get hazel. And it looks fantastic if you get someone with hazel eyes. And the first word that often springs to mind for someone with hazel eyes is elegant. Because they're very fun-loving. They're quite mischievous, generally, people with hazel eyes. But when it comes to relationships, although they like to try new things, they like to find the one when it comes to relationships. They're not necessarily into playing around with lots of different people. They want one serious relationship. But you also, people with hazel eyes, watch out. They can have quite a temper on them. So that's something to look out for. You know anybody with hazel eyes? And you've got grey eyes. They're known to be generally the least aggressive of people. People with grey eyes, they're normally they're born to be dominant and leaders, and they're quite strong in their nature. But they can also be quite creative and imaginative. So grey eyes, quite unusual grey eyes, not as often seen. And then you have blue eyes, and that is apparently the most desired colour in the world. So, Rod, what colour are your eyes?
I have blue eyes.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
They're often into, people with blue eyes like to have long-lasting relationships. And they're generally people who are quite peaceful. Why the laughter in the background there? And they're also quite energetic. But people with blue eyes do like to have full-on commitment when it comes to relationships. So, yeah.
But why are blue eyes the most popular, the most sought after?
It's just generally, if you look at a lot of advertising and things like that, the idea is the sort of blue-eyed, fair-haired, American dream sort of look. It's a colour that's quite fresh and lively.
There's also lots of different shades of blue, aren't there?
There is. I mean, you can get some very deep, dark blues, and you can get some piercing blues. I mean, I've seen some people wear their eyes. The blue is almost like the colour of water. It's so, proper, beautiful lake.
That's like mine.
You are too modern.
Is there anything in the thing that sort of... Because when I look at a woman, I prefer a woman who has maybe brown eyes. I've obviously got blue eyes. Is there anything in that you sort of are attracted to what you haven't got yourself?
Possibly, yes. It can be the case that you're attracted to somebody who's... I mean, we don't know, do we? With everyone having different eyes, you don't know whether people see things the same way you see things. You don't even know whether people see colours the same way.
Yeah.
What some person sees as red and someone else sees as red, they're not necessarily seeing the same thing.
Yeah, and blue eyes, you say you've got blue eyes, but everyone's got a slightly different shade of blue eyes, haven't they?
They have.
And everyone's got a slightly different shade of hazel eyes.
Yep. There's all different colours, and of course, everyone's actually born with blue eyes.
Yes, for the first 6 months, every baby has blue eyes.
And even longer, actually.
Is
sometimes, yes. Sometimes it can change within a matter of weeks. For others, they can still be changing at 18, 24 months. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
But what you've said there, you mentioned people with brown eyes, you mentioned people with hazel eyes. My twin brother has hazel eyes and my son has brown eyes, and you described them. It's really amazing.
Well, there you go.
Cool.
She's a genius.
Yeah.
So,
the brown eyes.
Yeah. So what else did you find out, Julie?
Well, there's a saying, you've probably heard it. They often say that the eyes can be the windows to the soul. So that's a saying that's been used in literature, and people are often heard to say it anyway. And there's scientists have actually done research to find out whether this is actually true. And they've argued that eye structure and personality could be linked, because the genes that are responsible for the development of the iris in the eye, they also play a role in shaping part of the frontal lobe of your brain, and that itself influences personality. So possibly the fact that the eyes really are the window to the soul is correct. Wow. So because patterns inside the iris of the eye can give an indication of whether you're a warm and trusting person or whether you're more neurotic or impulsive. You probably know yourself, so much can be said through the eyes. Sometimes you don't have to say anything at all, and your eyes can say it all for you. People can express desire just by looking at somebody. You can have disgust, anger, fear, pleasure. There's so much that can be said through the eyes without actually having to use any words at all. And there's one phrase you've probably heard of before, which is known as bedroom eyes. Have we heard of that one before? Which is when... is that an agreement there?
Yeah, it is, yes.
That is when the pupils dilate, and that can happen due to physical or psychological pleasure. So when someone finds another person or something attractive, the pupils dilate, and when your pupils dilate, someone you're looking at, they can often find that attractive. Studies have been done to see whether people find people attractive with normal-sized pupils or when their pupils have dilated, and generally the attraction is to someone whose pupils are also dilated.
So when you're on a date, Julie,
yes.
if you want to peer into somebody's eyes and see whether they're dilated, and that might be a good sign.
That might be a good sign. You might know if you're onto a winner or you're not.
Or it just might be that the room is slightly shadowy and your eyes are trying to absorb more light.
There is that as well. Could also be the case that they might have drunk half a bottle of wine. There could be other reasons, of course, but that might be one of the things to look out for. So, yeah, you can't control the pupil dilation. So if you're in a romantic setting... as Debbie says, a reduction of light can cause the pupils to dilate, and that's why often when people think of romantic restaurants, they usually think of somewhere with soft light and candles. So
Okay. And can I just finally just ask everyone, that's really good, really interesting stuff, Julie. But the other thing is sort of eye contact. Now, that's important, isn't it? Because we all must have come across people where the eye contact isn't right for some reason. It's either not enough or it's too much. Would you agree?
I would agree, yeah.
It's a fine balance that people have got to get right.
It's definitely a fine line. I mean, once you get to know somebody a bit better, as I said previously, a lot can be said through the eyes and by maintaining an eye contact. Generally, I think if you hold eye contact with somebody, you're seen to be a more of a trustworthy person. I mean, there is a saying, if the eyes look to the left, then perhaps you are telling the truth, but you're not quite sure how to phrase it. If the eyes look to the right, then they're telling a lie. So you can maybe ask somebody something you want to know the truth about, and if their eyes tend to slide to the right, then perhaps they're not giving you the true answer. But generally, eye contact needs to be kept, I would say, on a first date, to a minimum, not too much, not too little. But if someone is looking away a lot, looking at their phone a lot, then possibly the date's not going as well as you might hope.
That was the dating show's top reporter, the brown-eyed.
The brown-eyed.
No, hazel-eyed.
No, brown-eyed.
She said you were hazel, didn't she?
No, brown. Did you listen?
I did. Okay, the brown-eyed Julie Davis.
Yes.
She came out with some really interesting bits there, didn't she?
Absolutely. Now I'm scared to look at you, Rod, because you might be interpreting things all differently.
Debbie, you've got... It's just the two of us in here.
Yes.
You've got those so-called bedroom eyes.
Yes, but that's because you've turned the studio lights down, Rod.
The Dating Show, brought to you by olderdatingonline.com.